Well, welcome back to the Big Jake podcast. Happy to be with you. I'm one day late this week. It is Monday. It's actually Memorial Day, May 29th. So I was on the road so much over the last 24 hours or so that couldn't get recorded. But here we are, better late than never. So here we go. So we'll talk about what's happening recently. Last week we had a brand new open mic here in Louisville. It was last Monday at Diorio's Pizza. My friend Zach, he ran it. He was the host, and I signed up absolutely first. So that was fun. Zach is a guy I play chess with, so he's a comedian. But mostly, I think of him as my chess buddy. We've played, I think, 26 games of chess through the phone, little chess app. Which, if you're interested, you can find me on the chess app Liberty Jake. My picture is a green puppet. But I've played Zach 26 times, beat him all 26 times. Other friends of mine that I've played, I played my old college roommate a couple times. He beat me a few times. I beat him a few times. I played another comic. He beat me a couple times. I beat him. We drew one time. But Zach consistently loses to me. And we also consistently have a game going. So right now we have a game going, and he's going to lose. So that's just what happens. A lot of times he'll resign pretty early. I'll take his queen, and he'll just resign. Like, oh, all right, I can't win now. Which is probably true. But one of these days, I'm sure he's going to sneak one by me. Until that, I am undefeated by Zach. Zach's got this joke of his nickname when he was a kid was Cheesecake Boy, which I think is just such a fun nickname. If I could be called anything, Cheesecake Boy, that's pretty high on the list. I'm a big fan of cheesecake. But Cheesecake Boy, does that mean he's made out of cheesecake? He lives for cheesecake? Either one, I'm for. Anyway, last Thursday, I did a set at Summit City in Fort Wayne. So they had a show that was called 5 for 5. So 5 comedians for $5. It was a Thursday night. So a lot of times on Thursdays you have the headliner. A lot of times headliners will do Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This time the headliner wasn't going to do the Thursday show, so they just had us do the showcase. A couple of my buddies were on it. Tyson Cox out of Indianapolis and Zach Wyckoff out of Cincinnati. Those guys were on it, so I was excited. I didn't know they were on it until I showed up, and there they were. And I got to do the long set at the end. So of the 5 comedians, I was the 5th, and I did 30 minutes. Everybody else did 15. So that was pretty fun. It's always fun to do a long set in a comedy club. And the people were very nice. They were encouraging. They were so excited to be there. It was like this was the first comedy show they ever saw, and they were just, oh my goodness, it was so good, sort of thing. It wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a good-sized crowd, and they came up to me afterwards. I sold a few T-shirts. I had, at the time, 4 T-shirts left from my first printing of T-shirts, and I walked away with only 1 T-shirt. So, going to have to order some more, which is a good problem to have. And then on Saturday, I was in Cornelius, North Carolina, which is why I wasn't able to record. Actually, I said Saturday. It's actually Sunday that I was on the show in Cornelius. And so Sunday, I woke up in the morning, went to church, taught Sunday school, got in the car, came back home briefly, dropped my wife off, drove to the hotel, caught a quick nap, got up, went to this big fancy lake house in Cornelius, North Carolina, which is right outside of Charlotte. I looked it up on Zillow. It's like a $6.5 million house. And you walk in and you think, yep, this is a $6.5 million house. So it was a real nice property. I thought it was going to be some sort of like rinky-dink party. They had a stage, they had a sound system, they had chairs set up in rows like a comedy club. It was really bizarre and well done at the same time. So I was into it. I met the headliner that night was Gio Giovanni. I was talking to him. He's, one of these pros that have been doing it for 20 years, something like that. The funny thing is he just moved to the Denver area, and I lived in the Denver area for a long time. So we knew a lot of the same guys, but I never knew him because I moved and he moved there. He's about to go to Vegas. He says he's doing a lot of stuff in Vegas. Obviously he's bragging, but that's okay. I don't know you. Brag, dude. I mean, maybe you're awesome. But if I haven't run across you yet, how would I know? Anyway, he's telling me all about this. And one of the first questions out of his mouth is, are you PC? And I thought, like, politically correct? Am I PC? Is that what he meant? And that is what he meant. And I was thinking, I don't consider myself PC or not PC, just like not in that category at all. But now that I think about it, having not been put on the spot, I think about it like, obviously I'm PC. I'm politically correct. I am not pushing any envelopes. I'm joking about dogs. I'm joking about being really tall. I've got laundry jokes. I mean, there's nothing offensive in my material. Plus being clean. So, yeah, PC. Now, he says, oh, I'm not PC at all. My website is Inappropriate Genius. Oh, my goodness. Because I had talked to the owner of the house and the guy who's throwing the party earlier that day, and I asked any restrictions on content, and he says, hey, there's going to be some people here with their parents. There's going to be a lot of generations. There's going to be some old, some young, whatever. So nothing too, like, explicit. But, I mean, we're not, uptight, but nothing too bad that you'd be embarrassed to laugh at in front of your parents. And I was like, oh, that's going to be super easy. So I did, I went up first. It's funny because the owner, the host of the party, he was talking to both of us, and we had been chatting, me and Gio had been chatting, and he's like, okay, we're going to have Gio first and then Jake, and I was thinking, not in your life are you going to do that. So I said, I think I'm going to go first. And he says, are you sure? Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And Gio's like, yeah, let's have him go first. Because going from not PC, inappropriate, to clean is a hard transition to make. The other way can be done pretty easy. A lot of dirty headliners like clean openers. One of the guys in that realm would be Randy Feltface, which I know is a weird name, and he's a puppet, but he's also a very good comedian. And he specifically asked for a clean feature. So I featured for Randy Feltface as a clean feature, and he came out there and wasn't clean at all, even though he's a puppet. But I think it worked really well because it's a change of pace. It makes sure that we don't hit a lot of the same material. I mean, we're not going to be overlapping. He's not going to do a lot of jokes that I'm going to do. I'm not going to do a lot that he's going to do, and I've never seen his set before. So it's one of those interesting pieces. Anyway, so I do my 30 minutes. I actually do 36 minutes. Do a decent amount of crowd work. I didn't want to do a ton of crowd work, but I have a few jokes that I set up by mentioning somebody in the crowd. I try to find somebody that looks like me, just a white guy with beard and glasses, which is really easy to find in crowds. And I'd make fun of that guy a little bit. So I was doing that, and they just loved that. Then I went back to my material, and it was okay. And okay, they want me to pick on them a little bit. And so I leaned a lot more into that. And they were into it. Anyway, after I got off stage, they took a little intermission, which is never a good thing. The flow of the show needs to keep going, and now we're going to break the flow for 20 minutes while everybody gets ice cream, comes back and sits down, and now Gio has to go on. And it was an uphill battle for Gio. Now, he did a great job, but it was the kind of company that wouldn't appreciate really raunchy stuff. You have teenagers, you have early college kids, you have grandparents, you have aunts and uncles, you have a family kind of get together. They're not going to be roaring in laughter at stuff that's really edgy. So it was interesting to do that and to see that back to back. He made this joke at the beginning that now that he's on stage, we're going from Sesame Street, which is me, to Nightmare on Elm Street, which is him, which is pretty accurate because I'm, bubbly. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm not like, what's that one water? What's that LaCroix? It doesn't have any flavor. It just kind of like hurts. Like watermelon LaCroix tastes painful and a little bit like watermelon. Anyway, coming up, I've got a fun run of shows in Colorado and Utah with my buddy Mark Masters. Mark Masters this weekend is running the Vail Comedy Festival. So that's a super fun festival. I did it last year. I didn't do it this year, but I did do it last year. And it's a great, great festival. So I'm sure he's going to be a little bit worn out after a long weekend of doing stuff. But I'm going to meet with him next week, probably on Thursday, and we're going to do a run of shows. I think it's 2 casinos and 1 brewery. I don't know how it's going to go, but it'll be fun. And I've never performed in Utah, so there you go. Other things that are coming up, I have joined an improv troupe, so we'll see. We'll see what that does. I like the idea of doing improv and having that skill nice and sharp. Now, do I really want to perform with them very often? I'm not sure. And if I'm booked during rehearsals, then I'm just going to be booked. But if I'm not booked, then I would love to go rehearse with them. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I think I can get better at my craft by being around them. So I think it's a win-win. We'll see. We'll see. If they have a lot of shows, pop up, it'd be great. The team seems a little big. I don't know exactly how many are on the team. Probably close to 12, which is a lot of people for an improv troupe. My favorite improv that I used to do was with a troupe that we called Mirthquake, which I like that name, Mirthquake. And Mirthquake was me and my buddy Steven, and just us two. And we would do a lot of shows. We worked real hard on it. We did the duel, which was 2 improv troupes and the audience votes. And we did really well at the duel several times. He eventually moved to Florida. So before I moved, he moved. So the band broke up. But that was one of my favorite improv experiences, is just the duo. Does that mean I'm selfish with performance? Yes, obviously. You have to be selfish when you're a stand-up. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, we're all out to have a good time. Me and 50 strangers. And I know and am extremely confident in the fact that if they all be quiet, let me talk into this microphone, they will all have a good time. And I will too. We all will. But if any of them talk into the microphone or interrupt me while I'm talking into the microphone, we're going to have a bad time. So there's a certain level of arrogance that has to go. The best thing for you is for you to be quiet and just listen to me. And as a comedian, you have to think that. So, yeah, of course, there's some arrogance. I did a few improv shows where I would be on the troupe, but the troupe was too big. And I would get in trouble for being in too many scenes. And that's frustrating. It's like, I know, you gotta like just hang out in the back and let them have their turn. But when your troupe is doing 15 minutes, and two people are doing a scene that's lasting 3, 4, 5 minutes, I mean, you want to jump in. You don't join an improv troupe to stand on the sides. I don't know. That's me. But there is a Moth storytelling event happening tomorrow. The topic is gossip. And I do have some stories about gossip, but I haven't worked them out into a stand-up routine for sure. And I don't know if I want to do it. I do want to do it because I want to get good at storytelling, and the only way to get good at storytelling is to storytell. But it's a little nerve-wracking. Saying, hey, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to tell a story that I haven't told before. Yikes. So, we'll see. I don't know. I'll let you know next week if I end up being brave enough to go tell a story at the Moth tomorrow. This story I am going to tell you happened a few years ago. I was living in Denver, and my niece had a birthday. And she really wanted a Frozen-themed birthday party. That's great. Everybody likes the movie Frozen. It's fun. By the way, okay, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. There's one conspiracy theory that I always have rattling around in my brain, and it is about Disney and Frozen. So the idea is that Walt Disney, when he died, froze his either body or his head so that he could be reanimated later. That's the idea. I don't know if that's true or not. But then the Walt Disney Company came up with a few ideas so that finding that information is way, way harder. So a few years ago, they would have Disney on Ice. And it was all of your favorite Disney cartoons with people in ice skates, and they would skate around. I actually went to one of them when I was a kid. It was Disney on Ice. And then they came out with a movie, Frozen. Which means today, if you were to Google the phrase Disney on Ice, you would get an idea about ice skating, the ice skating events. If you were to Google the phrase Disney Frozen, you would get the story of Elsa and all that. You wouldn't get any stories about the man, Walt Disney, being literally on ice or being literally frozen. So did they make those entertainment products in order to hide this story, this rumor, whether it's true or not, to hide this rumor of Walt Disney being frozen? I don't know. It seems like they did. It really does. Because there's no other movie named Frozen. There's no other idea of on ice. That seems like a weird way to say it. I don't know. But my niece wanted a Frozen-themed birthday party. Had nothing to do with Walt Disney or his decomposing frozen corpse. It was about the cartoon, the Disney cartoon, or the animated feature. And she was going to have this at an ice skating rink. All right, great. So we go to the ice skating rink, me and my wife, my brothers, both my brothers are there, my niece, my nephews, all of them. Everybody's hanging out. And my brother, he paid for everybody to rent ice skates and do some time on the ice. So I went up to the ice skate rental desk and I said, "What's the biggest pair of ice skates you have?" And they said 15. I wear a size 18. But I know shoes come in different shapes. Sometimes you could fit into a 17, sometimes you could fit into a 16, whatever. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. They gave me the 15s, and I thought as long as I could put them on, tie the laces, I'd be fine. I have never been so wrong. I got them on, tied the laces, and they were tight. They were tight on my feet. But I thought, okay, your feet don't do anything. They're just at the bottom of your legs. What are you going to do? You just go skate. I was so wrong. Oh, my goodness. So I tried to skate one lap. The entire time I'm hanging on to the side rail because I have no balance. I'm in so much pain. My feet feel like they're bleeding and on fire. And I slowly, probably took me half an hour to go one lap by just like clinging to the side of the ice skating rink. Got back to where I started, flopped down on my back like a turtle, and just get these things off of me sort of idea. And I think my brother had to help me like yank them off, and everybody's laughing, and I feel like kind of a goober, but whatever. I gave it a shot, and turns out a nice pair of ice skates that are 3 sizes too small are too small. You live and learn. The books that I've been reading, I finished the book Grain Brain by Dr. Perlmutter. It is an interesting read. It is similar to some of these other books that I've read that advocates for a low-carb, high-fat diet. It specifically goes into detail saying how bad gluten is, and it's fairly convincing. The problem is, so I finished that book, and okay, you've convinced me. And one of the real big things is he's saying, hey, if you want a nice, sharp brain, if you want to have strong cognitive abilities, if you don't want dementia or Alzheimer's, one of the things you can do is eliminate gluten and grains from your diet, which is interesting. And I think it's worth experimenting because I do want a really sharp brain. But when I finished that book, I started another book of his, which was like called The Grain Brain Total Life Plan or something like that. It came out a few years later, and in it he said things like, hey, here's a bunch of the stuff that have been confirmed since the first book, which is always good to hear. But then he really talked about cutting out gluten and carbs and sugar forever. Like never again. And I was driving, so I did this on audiobook, and I was driving at the time. I was in North Carolina and Tennessee and all that. And I'm driving, and I keep seeing businesses on the side of the road. And I saw a strip mall, and it had burgers and fries, this one local place, and then like pizza. And I'm thinking, if I embark on this, that means for the rest of my life, I can never have that. But then, of course, it was next to a vape store and next to a chiropractor. And I've never been to a chiropractor, and I've never been inside of a vape store. Those don't interest me at all. So that's really what my mind is kind of going towards, is I've got to take this idea that used to be very, very appealing to me. I mean, there's a Little Caesars half a mile away from my house. I drive past it every day, multiple times. And every day I look at it and I think, oh, Little Caesars, you've done me well. But I've got to see that like it is the store that's next to it. Across the street is a store, the Smoker's Outlet, that sells discount cigarettes and liquor. I'm not interested in discount cigarettes and liquor. So I need to see Little Caesars as if it was a place that I would just never go to. I've never gone in, never would go in. It is interesting to think about. For some reason, I don't even like Kit Kats, but for some reason the first thing that came into my mind was Kit Kats. Like, are you telling me that I can never have a Kit Kat again? I guess so. I guess so. Another book that I've been reading is The Fun Habit by Mike Rutger. It's an interesting book. It is talking about how humans need to have time for fun. And that fun can be all sorts of different stuff, but it's better if it's active. It's better if you're doing something, and we need more fun in our lives is basically the idea. Now, I don't like it as much as some of the other books that I've read, but it is interesting. It's got so far so good. I'm about 2 chapters in, so I haven't given it a huge chance yet. It might get a lot better, but for right now, it seems a little bit on the obvious side. I don't know. As a guy who does things for fun, it's not super groundbreaking. Maybe it would be for somebody else. It's interesting. One of the first things he says is you need to have more time in your schedule so that you can have opportunities for fun. For example, if you are ironing your clothes, well, stop ironing your clothes and get clothes that don't need ironing. Okay. Hold up there. How many people iron their clothes, first of all? Second of all, how many people iron their clothes and have never considered not ironing their clothes? I think if somebody today in 2023, if they're still ironing their clothes, they have made that choice to be a person who irons their clothes. I don't think this advice is going to be heeded by a single soul on the planet. There's not anybody who's like, oh, I should stop ironing. Because they either don't iron or ironing is very important to them. I don't know. That was just, I thought it was a kind of a goofy example that he threw out there. Some of the other examples he threw out I thought were pretty decent, but I thought was a goofy one. As far as the diet has gone, my personal diet, I've gone 8 days now, all good, keto, gluten-free, low carb, high fat, all of that stuff. I think I'm having some more energy. I think I can feel a little bit more energetic. I'm not sure. I think I'm sleeping a little bit better. I'm not sure. I'm gonna, keep us, assessing the situation. I fasted for 48 hours, the last 48 hours, really easily. I just had lunch on Saturday. I was traveling a bunch on Sunday and Monday morning, and then I had like a late lunch on Monday today. And 48 hours, no food. Wasn't that bad. I don't know. Maybe I'll fast more often. I was able to do the new routine that I wanted to do, my seminary routine, at the open mic at the Oreos on Monday. Did not go well. Was a really rough open mic. It's one of these open mics where it was all comics, and if you go first in a room full of comics, most, if not all of the comics, are thinking about their set list. So they're not the greatest audience members. Plus, I was doing a lot of stuff that's not very relatable to comedians. I was talking about going to seminary, and they have never been to seminary. So it didn't go great. I want to try it again. I don't know what to do. But I have been working on the routine, so we'll see. We'll see. The other joke that I want to do is I want to work this into a real bit. And this is true. I've been driving so much lately that I'm pretty sure I bruised my tailbone. Which is a weird injury to have. I bruised my tailbone by sitting. I'm out of shape to the point that sitting injures me. And it injures my tailbone. I don't even have a tail. So there's a lot there. I drove this weekend. This is totally true. I drove this weekend and I had one of these orthopedic pillows to make the drive a little bit more comfortable, and it totally worked. I did the same thing on Thursday. So on Thursday, I had to drive to Fort Wayne and back, and that was about 8 hours total, 8 or 9 hours. And then on Sunday, I had to drive like 9 hours, and then on Monday morning, this morning, I had to drive another 6 or 7 hours. All of those hours I spent on this orthopedic pillow, and it really did help. So I do like that idea. I want to work that into a joke. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I will see y'all next week.